Ambition. I was saying that, in fact, in this age, if you want to make money, let me tell you, don't be so serious about poetry. That's the truth. If you want to sell poems, if you want to appear in many magazines, don't be so serious about poetry. Because the magazines don't care for serious poetry. They are not interested in it. They don't care. That's the truth. Most of them. Serious poetry is always, in a way, swimming against the tide of the culture. In every age, there is a thing that people do. It's the way that people do it is what is common. There's a common way that they do it. So everybody wants to do it that way. And people do it and they get, I mean, people clap for them. You want to go and be writing like Eliot. Who will read you? I mean, when Eliot even came himself, they were bashing Eliot. When Eliot wrote the Wasteland, people were bashing Eliot left, right, and center. It was almost a crime to mention the name of Eliot as a serious poet. Auden, they bashed Auden. Poetry, serious poetry, it always takes time for people to catch up with it. Always. And so, if you want people to immediately understand what you are doing, and you want to get fame and popularity, and you want to make money, like, bro, let me tell you now, don't, all these things I'm saying, just write them down and go and put them in the house. And go and write the way everybody else is writing. I assure you will make it. Awards now, I mean, the books that are clapped for, the books that are applauded it's always the same way in every age. The only difference is that in previous ages, at least people knew that these poets are bad, these poets are good. In our own age, the bad and the good, we don't know the difference. Everybody is a poet. And we say, oh, well, is your taste is different from my own taste. What you think is good poetry is not what I think is good poetry. So we have to say, okay, as Ruki said, what is good poetry? But we'll get there. So can you be lax at some point? Can you say, okay, I just want to write whatever comes? Don't be every time I go there, do hard work.
That's not what I mean. Like, a single point, for example, when we take a single point, we go out and you have something like some parameters that is guiding what you want to write. So, and you're writing it, and at the end of the day, you think at some point like this poem is finished, and then later when you go back to it and you begin to see few things that are not okay. That if you don't know the solution, you may not know the solution at that point. You may not even know. You can take that poem of the bishop. You know that how many
for years.
How many years?
Yeah.
Does it take how to finish?
Yeah.
So you can you like give up and say, okay, let me just
publish it. That's where the problem lies. It's not that we don't
and
make.
the poem will not see the light of the day if you continue to do it that way. Like saying that you will not publish it, like keeping the poem and you won't perfect it, like 100%.
But is a poem ever 100% perfect? No, a poem is never 100% perfect. Shakespeare did not write a 100% perfect poem. In fact, there's a lot of poetry in Shakespeare. But even in the great poets, there's a lot that is terrible, that is not very good. But the thing is that always and always we have to aim high. And we have to know that the first draft is not it at all. It's never going to be it. There are people who say they have written a poem in a sitting, like Christian Wiman, every even thing. He had not written a poem in years, and he went with his wife to church for the first time in years. And he got home and he started, God goes belonging to every even thing is made. Sing is being simply by being the thing it is. Stone and tree and sky. Man who sees and sings and wonders why God goes. Belonging to every living thing is made means a storm of peace. Think of the atoms inside a stone. Think of the man who sits alone, trying to will himself into a stillness where God goes. And he wrote this poem in a sitting. And it's a great poem. Well, all the poems that he had not written for years, he had already been prepared for that one poem that was coming. So there are times that it happens that you write a poem, but that does not mean that a critical work has not been done. But hardly will you find a poem that you just write it at once and that is it and you want to send it out. I don't advise it. I don't think that is the way to go. Right now outside I have maybe 6 submissions. It's because the poems that I have in my word, I don't feel like they are there yet. So I wait and I am lazy. There's a laziness that the poet has to have. I'm supposed to edit the poem and sit down there and just be watching the poem for like 1 hour, 2 hours. Sometimes that's what editing is, because you don't know what the problem is. So the problem has to reveal itself to you. So you have to sit down and just be looking at the poem. and be searching for words in the dictionary. But we don't have the patience to do that. A lot of the times, just oh. And another problem is that we need money. So you want to sell a poem, yeah, yeah.
It seems like
I'm not a perfectionist. Okay, maybe I am, but you can't be. I don't believe that there is perfect. I believe that you can just get a piece of work to the best place that it can be.
What defines best?
Excellence, yes. What defines best? Well, you do. This is what Kobe Bryant says, and I like the idea. He says that exhaustion is an excuse. If you are, let's say you are training and you get to a place where you are exhausted, he says that is an excuse. So you have to push through the moment of your exhaustion. Let's apply this to writing poetry. You have edited the draft for like 20 times and you feel like, oh my, I don't tire. That is when you should push on. Now, if you have now done it again like 20 times, you can say, oh, I'm done. The whole thing about writing is a process of shifting things around, playing with it, seeing if this works, seeing if this does not work. You go in the dictionary and you are looking for a word. You are looking for a word like, okay, what is the word that I can use here? You have a sound in your head. Like yesterday, I was writing a poem and I had this sound, Marlin or something, Marlin in my head, Marling. And I went to go and check the meaning. I was like, no, this is not it at all. I mean, this is not the word that I need. But somewhere in that same dictionary, there's a word that is very close. And I have to spend my life looking for the word. So it's not that we are trying to be perfectionists. It's that I want to do this. Me, I always say it. Yeah.
Me, I was just say, I'm trying to say we should not celebrate mediocrity.
Yeah.
So when we go to the work, we should aim for that perfection. We may not get it most of the time. We
Yeah.
may not get it.
Yeah.
But when you aim for it, you'll be close.
Yeah. There's an essay. This is the thing. The essay by Robert Frost, Education by Poetry. One of my favorite essays. Frost says that the best you can do is to come near to come close to. You can't really get there, but coming close to is as great as anything. Many people don't even come within 100 miles of the thing. So coming close to is significant, is major. The thing with the culture, the thing that I see with the culture, with poetry in contemporary times is that we are not serious about it enough. That's just it. We are not serious about it enough. And if you are serious about it, people think that it's because you hate people or you don't like them or you're arrogant. Eliot himself was arrogant. If you read the early criticism of Eliot, when you read his interview with the Paris Review, which you had years later, it was almost during the latter part of his life, he was kind of repudiating his younger self. And that's the thing, is when you are young, when you're a young person, that your mind is sharpest as an artist. Unless you are somebody like Geoffrey Hill, who kept all through his life, he was obsessed. I mean, I read the last essay in his book of criticism. The last book. So the book is a book of collected critical writings. The last book, Alienated Majesty. This guy was still thinking at premium level. You could see. I'm like, bro, how do you do this for like 60 years? That's what we should be about. How can I keep at this art for 60 years? And for those 60 years, I'm not going to waver. I'm not going to drop my standards. I was discussing with Dolapo yesterday and he was telling me that a number of people, when they get out of the country and they go for MFAs, they just relax their first year because, I mean, they have been in Nigeria. They don't suffer now. They don't go out now and make them rest. And I was like, oh, bro. They don't understand. It's always about your goal and your aspiration and your ambition. Many people think that poetry is about arriving. I have arrived now. I don't enter US. I be big man now. In our culture, in Nigerian culture generally, we don't think of things. We think of things as being related to status rather than being related to just the work. I am a musician and I make an album and somebody reviews it. Let's say somebody reviews the album of Burna Boy now and bashes the album. Burna Boy can come out and say, "Mo lowo na kini won." That's the mentality. That's the way we think as Nigerians. Oh, of course, the masses. I remember years ago on Twitter. This was even before I left and came back. I said things about Wizkid's album. That album that came before Made in Lagos. Is it Made in Lagos? There was an album that I released, the one that had terms on it, Made in Lagos. I wrote, they were asking me, what are your views? Egbon Dami Ajayi was saying, tell me. I was like, I have problems with this Wizkid album. Egbon was like, tell me. So I wrote a short essay and posted it on Twitter as a picture. They insulted Wizkid fans. They insulted my daddy. They insulted my dead mommy. They insulted my grandma. They insulted me. And I'm like, these people, that is where we are. That is the way we are as a people. And it's a significant reason why it will hard for us to really, really go far. Really, really. Because you need a certain level of dispassionate interest in things for you to actually do it well. So that if I tell bro Flourish that, okay, but Flourish, this your shirt needs to be sewn somewhere. You don't think that I'm insulting you, I'm calling you a poor man. You go ahead and you fix the shirt. It's always status and arrival. So if your ambition is that, my ambition is to be a great poet. Simple. Fini. I don't ask if my poems are good again. That question is not there. Is this, you are saying you want to be a great poet, is this going to really match the level of greatness that you aspire to? There are times that I know that, well, this is not a great poem, but it's a good poem, and I let it go. Great poems don't write, not every poem that great poets write, it's a major poem. There are plays by Shakespeare that are not, T.S. Eliot called Hamlet a failed play. Troilus and Cressida, according to Charles Williams. And I read the play too. The play is neither here nor there. It just ends in the middle of nowhere. Great poets make half-baked things, yeah?
What do you think about Shakespeare?
Oliver Goldsmith. Yeah.
You said something else. Great poets make half-baked things.
Yeah, they make incomplete things. Can
you be more expressive?
Okay, let me. Do I answer a question first or yours? So, okay, this is the thing. A poem is when you look at plays, for example, plays are fully formed things. They are fully fashioned things. It has to have a character. The character has to be struggling with something real. The language has to be to par, it has to be up to par. The movement of the play has to be good. In a play like Troilus and Cressida, you don't really know what the play is about. Is it about, there are too many things happening in the play, that's just it. And people move from one side to another. I've not read the play, so I can't really phrase. But when I say poets make half-baked things, is that not everything they make is gino to that extent. Not everything. Not because they don't want to, but sometimes they are just incapable of doing it. So this is the argument. Yeah, this is the argument that T.S. Eliot made about Hamlet. He said that if I tap you, you are going to react in a certain way. Now, a playwright has to be able to, the way that the characters react has to be equal to the tapping that they have been tapped. Now, the problem with Hamlet, according to T.S. Eliot, is that the character is acting beyond the action. The reaction is more than the action that has been, how do I say it now, that has been enacted on the character, right? And so there are times when it's like that. When, for example, you write a poem that overshoots its mark. One of the principles that I'm going to share is that my writing is not very good. Emma Gbabe. This is one of the principles that I have. Intimacy is measure. So, poetry, as far as it goes, is about proportion. Art is about proportion. You can't have a piece of art, even in a case where you have like the Yoruba knock art, where the head is bigger than the body. There's still a symmetry to the picture. Now, that is what art is about. That is what beauty is about, symmetry. That there is an alignment. It's not like Akpawa lo sisale báyìí, orí wa tóbi. That's not the principle. So now there are times that poets make art where the head of the art is overgrown, of the poem is overgrown, but the legs are very tiny. That's an half-baked thing. It's half-baked. Maybe the metaphor is disturbing, but it's supposed to chisel the head to the point where the head will be in symmetry with the body. In the case where the head is not in symmetry with the body, then that's an half-baked piece of art.
I have
Yeah.
an objection, but
Yeah.
is that not in contradiction to statements that artists cannot attain perfection?
No, it's not in contradiction. Artists have to come close to, I have said. Have you seen David? David, the sculpture David by Michelangelo. Uh, you know the Mona Lisa.
Yes.
Is the Mona Lisa a perfect painting? It's not a perfect painting. In fact, to me, it's an ugly painting. It's not ugly, but the point is that it's not a perfect painting. Now, it's not a perfect painting, but it comes close to. You can take it in without feeling that something is amiss. So a half-baked thing is just, for me, it's a place where the artist is not giving his best. And sometimes it's because it cannot give his maximum. I recommend you read Charles Williams's The English Poetic Mind. Brilliant book. And it showed you why sometimes the poet has to make a half-baked thing. Now, in great poets, the poems that they make that seem to be difficult to make, that they don't know how to just make it, they don't know how to go forward with it. You are writing a story and you just don't know where to take it next. The story is just like the characters have decided, I'm not going anywhere. I don't know, I don't want to do anything. Or you're writing a poem and you get to a place and you just stop. Christian Wiman has this poem, My Brighter Bees, that's the title of his book, his collection of essays. My brighter bees into which all my longing will not go. Once more I come to the edge of all I know, and believing nothing, believing this. He wanted to finish the poem, but the poem will not go on. That's it. Stop. So there are times when that happens. But a lot of the times, in the development of a poet, the gains are going to come in the next work. Today, I make a poem. Tomorrow, I try to make a poem, but I'm not able to make it well. The third day, the poems that I will make, you'll take the gains of the losses that I had yesterday. As long as I gave my best. The thing with Shakespeare was that Shakespeare was trying to contemplate. He was trying to move beyond just writing very smart and interesting. Shakespeare is the most interesting guy when it comes to language. That guy could literally, he could make poetry out of anything. Poetry in terms of language. But poetry is not ultimately just about the language. So he could make poetry about anything. But at a point, Shakespeare had to go to a region where he had to contemplate something of life itself. In Troilus and Cressida, this is what happened. Troilus has a woman that he loves. I think the Greeks and which other people are supposed to fight a war. Somehow, they took his babe and took the babe to the other camp and gave it to the people that they are supposed to fight a war with. But he agreed with his babe that I'll be coming to come and check you. Don't worry, I'll still come and carry you out. But there was a point where he went there to go and look at his babe. And he heard that his babe was talking with a guy. And the babe was saying lovely things to the guy that she said she did not like. And so Troilus was like, it's that shock where you realize something that cannot be. This thing cannot be, but it's happening. I mean, somebody that you love, for example, you don't believe that they will leave you. But they're actually leaving you. And it's happening before your eyes. Now, that is the region that Shakespeare wanted to contemplate. But at that point, his hand was still shaky. He could not really do it very well. But in the subsequent plays, he was able to do that. In the maturity of a poet, in the growth of a poet, there are going to be moments when it almost seems impossible to do. But when people are considering the evolution of your work or your entire over, they see that at this point, this thing was leading to this thing. This thing was leading to this thing. In the end, it's not your individual. Yes, people always say that they will remember you. You might survive by only like 2 or 3 points, or at most 10 points. If you survive by 10 points, then you are a dumb. You are a dumb. If you survive, if 100 years ends, they are reading 10 of your poems, and it's current, the way they always quote Emily Dickinson. If they are reading you like that, you be dumb, para, peri, you are boss. I want to be like, I remember by maybe 3 poems. Because great poets go into quiet, they just receive. People don't read them that much. But of course, Shakespeare, we are reading Shakespeare left, right, and center. Shall I compare it to a Somers Day, Romeo and Juliet? Much ado about nothing. All these plays they still have currency in the culture. They are still affecting the culture. That's the greatness of the man. How many years after? About 500 years later. That's the greatness of the man. Yeah, that's the greatness of the man. So that's the point, that you can make things that are not in themselves utterly perfect, but you just know that you did your best. One thing about stories that are half-baked or pieces that are half-baked is that you know that something is not right in it, but you don't know how to fix it. That's just it. That's the basic thing. You know that something is not right with this piece, but you don't know how to fix it. Yeah.
So I'm trying my possible best to accept, not attack. But I'm the kind of person that I hold poetry very, very dear to me. Like, it's so dear to me that I started writing poems as early as 16.
Wow.
Way over 16. And most of the poems that I wrote at 16, I don't like it. So that's the acceptance of the things you said already. But then the poems that I write recently, my most recent poem that I wrote very recently, I titled it Both to Love and Back Again.
Hmm.
It's a love poem.
Okay.
And because I'm trying to like understand.
Do you have the poem here?
Yes.
You can read it. You can read it. We're supposed to start with poetical presuppositions, but intimacy is measured. We are still going to come back to this. But it's already what I was saying. That is proportion. You can't just make oversized things. A piece of art that is oversized.
Too much money.
Yeah, like thank you for sharing the poem. I like the fact that it is loath and love because I have something for the KJV Bible, and I think that is one of the most important books that a poet can read. It's bad for us that we live in a culture where the Bible has been turned into like when you see pap to key. What you saw the cocoa, that's the way they are. That's what they are doing to the Bible, with the Passion Bible and stuff. So I like the idea of loath and love. Now we are going to come to the poem. Thank you for reading it. Let's read some of the poems that we have on the list. Let me start by quoting you guys poems. Which poem do I know now? Sonny, which poem do you like? What's that poem that you said I should quote you that day? All my friends are finding new beliefs. Yeah, when we went to Oshodi, I was saying I don't know the poem. All my friends are finding new beliefs by Christian Wiman. All my friends are finding new beliefs. This one converts to Catholicism and this one to trees. In a highly literary and interto-religiously indifferent Jew, God warms on like a genetic generator. Paleo, keto, zone, South Beach, Bourbon. Exercise regimen so extreme she merges with machine. I hope I've not skipped a line. One marries a woman 20 years younger and twice in one branch uses the word verdant. There's a word, there's a line that has the word belligerent in it. I always forget that line. Sobrieties, I've skipped the line. Sobrieties, satirities, pilgrimages to the very bowels of being. All my friends are finding new beliefs and I'm finding it harder and harder to keep track of the old gods and the old loves, and the new gods and the new loves, and the days have daggers, and the mirror's motives, and the planets turning faster and faster in the blackness, and my nights and my doubts, and my friends, my beautiful, credible friends. But I have skipped a line. All my friends are finding new beliefs. One man marries a woman, yeah. Pali Okito. One man marries a woman 20 years. Another's brick-fisted belligerence gentles into dementia. And one, after a decade of finical feints and teases, like a sandpiper at the edge of the sea, decides to die. Sombers and glees, priesthoods and beasthoods. Now, see the thing with this poem. What is interesting about the poem? I did not memorize the poem to know it. I just read it many times again and again, and it just stuck because the sound of the poem is interesting. Priesthoods and beasthoods, sombers and glees, high-styled renunciations and avocations of death, sobrieties, satirities, pilgrimages to the very bowels of being. That is, there's a sound, there's a bouncing in this thing. Yeah, Paleo, Keto Zone, South Beach, Bourbon.
And it's not even putting it at the end of like.
There's no rhyme there. It's not like a rhyme. It's the music of the words, guy. It's the rhythm. The poet is not trying to say something as such. He's interested in one of my favorite statements that I found. I'm interested in expressiveness, not self-expression. So if there is a quality of a good poem, the first quality of a good poem is that
Like glory in chestnut.
glory in it. I don't. John I've not read that poem in a while, but I know that yes, in the past I've always been interested in expressiveness. My poem in Frontier, it's expressive. It's not saying anything in that sense. It's just moving, song. It's a song. I know that yes, there's a poem that I published in Tranströmer years ago. I think about that poem too. It's like kata kata. The languages. I was trying to be expressive. They are not good poems. I won't say that they are good poems. Hunger is remarkable. Yeah. Hunger is remarkable, but I like it because, well, there's something I will share. But I like it. I like Hunger. Thank you for reading Hunger. I was I was really happy to see it read. That poem is the most popular poem that I've written. Like when yeah, I mean, it was one that was telling me that no hunger. Um, what is it about hunger that keeps us coming?
Is it Lit Mag?
Lit Mag,
Yeah.
this Canadian magazine. Told me that what's the name of this guy, Carl Phillips, that he taught it in class. I just got into the US. I was like, are you whining me? Come, don't whine me. Oh. And he showed me the course, this thing that, yeah, it was taught in class. And I was like, bro, I don't blow. I just don't get money. No, he didn't have to. Like,
Yes, man.
he didn't have to. And he was teaching them about the sound of poems. And I read that poem when I was very young. I was 18. I was lucky. Not that I knew what I was doing, but I was lucky. So the first thing about a poem, a good poem, you ask the question, is that a good poem is expressive. That's the first thing. It's about expressiveness. Expressiveness. It's not the first thing about it is that there's a way that it moves. That's the first thing about it. There's just a way that it is moving. We call it rhythm, and it is rhythm, yes. But it's a lot more intricate than that. I met a traveler from an antique land who said two vast and trunkless legs of stone stand in the desert. Near them on the sand thou sunk a shattered visage lies, whose frown and wrinkled lip and sneer of cold command tell that his sculptor well those passions red which yet survive, stamped on these lifeless things. The hand that mocked them and the heart that fed. And on the pedestal these words appear, my name is Ozymandias, King of kings, look on my works, ye mighty and despair. Nothing else remains round the decay of that colossal wreck, boundless and bare, the low and level sand stretched far away. You don't have to know what I've been saying.
And you were enjoying the sound. You were just enjoying it.
Yeah, you don't have to know what I've been saying. The poem makes perfect sense. I can explain it to you. In fact, this is the poem that got me attracted to poetry. There's a man who has become famous now, Ravi Zacharias, and he used to read this poem. You know Ravi Zacharias, the apologist, and he used to recite this poem at the end of his lectures, and I was just charmed by it. This poem and the Ballad of Reading God, which is also another one of my favorite poems by Oscar Wilde. You don't have to know what is being said, but you are charmed by the music of the words. In vain your bangles cast charm circles at my feet. I am Abiku, calling for the one at the repeated time. You are not in vain your bangles cast. You want to what is happening here? In vain your bangles cast charm circles at my feet. I am before he tells you who he is, he has already the music of the language, the craziness of that language. There's a way that the language is like they chain somebody and the person is just pulling against the chain. That's the way the language sounds. It's expressive before it speaks. It's expressive. The language, this is why T.S. Eliot said that we believe that a poem can communicate before it is understood. That is the truth. A poem can communicate to you before it is understood. I used to read Snowman by one of my favorite poems by Wallace Stevens. The Snowman is on the list. Someone can just read the poem. I used to read that poem. A poem can communicate before it is understood. Yeah. A poem can do that. It's possible for a poem to do that. It can communicate before it's understood. There's that phrase that I was sharing with Dolapo yesterday by Teju. He was writing on the poetry of Tranströmer, and he was saying that Tranströmer's images or poems, they bypass the brain and they go straight to the psyche. Yeah, the snowman. Yeah. Yeah.
One must have a mind of winter, that the frost and bones of the pine trees crusted with snow, and have been cold a long time. Behold the junipers sharp with eyes, the spruces rough in the dark glitter,
In the distant glitter
of the January sun, and not to think of any misery in the sound of the wind, the sound of the field, which is the sound of the land full of the same wind, that is blowing in the same bare place for the listener who listens in the snow,
and not in himself, he also nothing.
Nothing that is not
there,
and nothing that is.
The listener who listens in the snow and not in himself,
And behold, nothing that is
not there.
and nothing that is.
and not in himself beholds the nothing. Is that it?
Yes,
And not in himself beholds the nothing that is not there, and the nothing that is not. There's this thing that Wallace Stevens does. It's rhythm, of course, but there's a way that the rhythm circles back upon itself. He says something and it just revolves in a few leaves, which is the sound of the land full of the same wind that is blowing in the same bare place. It's like a sameness. I don't know, I don't understand it yet. I understand it in my psyche, but I don't understand it in my understanding. Yeah, I can't, I don't know how to break it. And Stevens is one of the most remarkable poets. I've learned a lot from him, and I'm still learning a lot from him. Like my hair has been like tuned by Stevens, and that's one poet you can read if you want to tune your hair. Like just read Stevens again and again. So expressiveness, you don't know what that poem is saying yet. I mean, you don't know, but you know, you feel that something is happening here.